There we go. Okay, perfect. And I will not introduce myself because I am myself. I know, big shocker. Okay, so let's get into it. Last talk of the day, and then you all are free. So one thing that I don't think people realize just how many free resources there are on Azure. And if you want to get started and mess around with stuff, there's a lot available out there. So this talk is just covering some of that, what you can do for free or for very low cost. I'm a senior software developer at Rogue Fitness. I do a lot of work with cloud migrations, with Azure, a bit with AWS. So even though like my day job is actually a developer, and then I kind of like do infrastructure stuff on the side for fun because I'm a weirdo. And yeah, and I'm going to start off with a story instead of, normally I start off with like a why this presentation exists. This is going to start off with a story. In 2022, so I volunteer with Rotary Youth Exchange, which is a non-for-profit organization which provides scholarships to students to live abroad in a different country. So if you know any high schoolers interested, please have them apply. We're in application season. That can either study abroad for 1 month or 1 year in a different country, but it's been really hard to find students who actually want to go. And one of the things we had to fix this is we created an website for the organization all across North America to boost SEO of people to work with. The issue is it's run by your local district, and there are hundreds of districts, and they are not defined by counties. They're not defined by states. They are scattered all over the place. I can even find a map of all of them. It's how Rotary works. The big volunteer organization. It's a little messy, how volunteer organizations always are. But we went through and managed to get the zip codes for all these districts, and it was being forwarded from the submissions on the site to a person actually at that district, manually based off a giant Excel. Somebody's control Fing through the Excel and forwarding everything manually. They came to me and said, "Hey Drake, you're a developer. Can you fix this?" And I said, "Sure." And I went in and fixed it. Yes. I was not as good a developer at the time, so it was a little rough. I'm actually, it's on my to-do list this year is to go back and rewrite all of it. But once you do it, you need to actually run it. And where do you put this? This is an application that needs to run constantly, and I don't have a server in my garage. I'm not that kind of developer. Like, where do I put it? And the answer was Azure. So it's an Azure function. Sorry. If you're just using a public endpoint, they're great. So the overall site is a WordPress site that I do not maintain, luckily, but that calls essentially calls the function app as an API. There's some standard entity and access management stuff going on to give access to the key vaults to manage secrets. There's an application inside set up on it. Doesn't really do anything. I think I set it up wrong, but I haven't fixed it because it's simple enough to not break too much. It's mostly calling an email service, forwarding things, and occasionally I call it to like get statistics on it. And it all stores in Cosmos DB. And how much does it cost? So this is an application. It doesn't get a ton of traffic, but I mean, it gets hit a couple thousand times a year, plus some extra stuff for me to go in and check and mess around with it. How much do you think it cost? Whole stack.
Free.
I wish it was free. It's very close. Any other guesses?
Annual or monthly?
Monthly.
30 cents a month.
Oh, did you look at my slides?
No, it's in the description of the presentation.
Oh, did I? Oh. You're right. I did put it in the description of the presentation, didn't I? So 30 cents a month. Yes, that is correct. It's like 31 cents a month. I got you. Well, here's the funny thing. 30 of the 31 cents is for my cloud shell. Because I don't like using my local shell. I use the cloud shell because it's always logged in and up to date. If I just deleted my cloud shell. Yeah, that's the non-cloud shell resources. That's the cloud shell. Without the cloud shell, it would be approximately half a cent a month because Key Vault's not free. But I'm like, I like getting the bill because it lets me know the app's still working. But yeah, that's pretty amazing, especially because I'm not actually pushing it anywhere near as far as it could go. So the big part of this is Cosmos, because actually the most expensive part is looking into this is all the databases. Those are really the hard part. There's a lot of places where you can get free compute. Databases, not so much. But with Cosmos, you have up to 1,000 request units per second, 25 gigabytes for free forever on one database per account. That's a lot. Like that's a fair bit. And it's actually, if you set up a free tier account over your first 12 months, you actually get an even larger database than that. And the nice thing with Cosmos is you can even partition it into different like chunks and containers. So you could have this one free thing run dev, test, and prod, or manage different databases for an application, not for something big where it will slow down, but for something small, you can for sure. When I asked an AI, how much can I do with this free tier? It was saying that standard users on a small application, maybe 10 request units per second, this could actually manage 100 concurrent users on the free tier, which is pretty amazing. And then the other thing is Azure Functions. So Azure Functions, they're essentially an API that has other fancy stuff. But one of the neat things it does, it also has a bunch of different triggers. So you can have it trigger off of when something is uploaded. You can have it triggered by an API call. You can have it triggered based off time. So you can actually use this to do things like make a Discord bot, where it will send off a webhook, call this, do something, send it back to Discord through an API call. A lot of things like that you can do. And you get up to, depending on configurations, 250,000 or 1 million API calls per month. Once again, that's a fair bit. I wish the application was hitting 1% of that. We're hitting maybe 1/10 of 1% of that. And then the amount of like execution time available, like you're not gonna run out of execution time unless you're doing things really crazy. You're running out of actual executions first. So this is a massive amount of stuff available, all for free. What that means is that these two things together build an application that's scalable, secure enough. It still like doesn't have a VNet set up because I don't want to pay for a firewall. But something you can actually put out there and use. It is in use in the real environment and works just fine. Is it enterprise grade? No. But here's the thing. It also scales out of the free tier. If for some reason we started getting 1,000 users per week, 1 million users per week, I'd start getting billed, but everything else would work just fine. So the next thing, though, so that's kind of the first thing. Just, hey, you can build stuff that actually is, like there are things out there working right now that are free. Next thing to know about is Azure actually gives you free money. Not real money, but like Azure money, like the monopoly money of money. So first thing, if you ever go to myvisualstudio.com, it is a great site. You should go there if you haven't yet, because they have a bunch of things on there that you probably don't know about that you have for free with your account. So like you have, if you have a standard free tier account, just a generic one, you have a month of LinkedIn, a month of Pluralsight, a month of a bunch of other things, free Visual Studio Community, free Visual Studio Code, bunch of other things. And if you have a paid one through your company, you actually get more stuff. You get like 3 months, bunch of other stuff that you have free goodies available for you to try out because Microsoft wants you to use their products. As well as if you have a regular free tier, you get $200 when you sign up for your first 12 months. And if you have a Visual Studio enterprise subscription to your organization, you actually have $50 a month of Visual Studio credits. Enough for you to actually mess around and do things, but not burn any of your own money. I don't know. It's probably not enough money to do any like Bitcoin mining either. So maybe it is. I don't know. No comment.
Different tiers have different money. Because I think the one that they give FTs, you get 150. Oh,
I was on the other tier. I've only ever been on the $50 tier.
Tiers.
Okay. Well, you definitely have the 200. You might have the 50. You might have 150. All available for you just from Microsoft because here's the thing. Microsoft doesn't want your money. They want your company's money because you don't have a lot of money. Your company does. So they will give you free things so that you then learn and like it and makes your life better. And when you go to your company, you will use that thing and then your company will give Microsoft lots of money. Decent business model. It's why they're, still not a small mom and pop shop. Microsoft employees in pain over here, to say that. Another big one they give you for free is actually they have a sandbox. So let's say you want to use Bash and you want to use one of the services that is actually fairly expensive, a little more complicated to set up. You don't want to burn all your credits. If you go on Microsoft Learn, a lot of different learning pathways, and they have really impressive learning pathways that take you through any Microsoft certification, all their services. They have biceps, stuff like scripts. They have things on how to set up AI.
Terraform.
And Terraform.
I contributed.
Do they? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure I believe it. But a lot of them will actually have sandboxes. So you can go in and they will give you an environment where you can run an expensive resource for 30 minutes totally for free. So they have a bunch of sandboxes to mess around with things. And I think you get, you get 10 per day of like 30 minutes each. That's 5 hours per day. I don't know who wants to spend more than 5 hours per day on Azure, but it's not me. Just saying. What? You gotta make diagrams and Lucid charts sometimes. Okay, back to the apps, back to the fun part. So what if you want a front end? Because that was a fully back end only thing, which is like only back end dev weirdos like that. Everybody else likes the pretty picture on the front. We have no back end devs here, I know that's for sure. So the main thing I do for that is just Azure App Service. It is super easy. It is incredibly easy. You just hit it, and you should deploy it from IAC, and you should upload with CI/CD pipelines. There is a button. You just hit the button and it deploys it. There's a button to send your code to it. It works very well.
That's how Aspire does it. It's click to deploy. What about static websites, man?
I'm getting there. I have like 3 options.
Okay. You
Just
lead
wait.
with this? Come on.
Yeah, this is the easiest one.
Okay.
Okay. So it is free up to 60 CPU minutes per day, which does not mean you have 60 minutes. That's 60 minutes of running it, and they only run when they send you the code. So it can actually support a couple of users throughout the day. Totally free forever. And this is something that I'll do for every hackathon I've ever been in, is I will build the application and put it on an app service so that you could scan it and have it on your phone with you. Because I mean, if a judge gets to see you use the application, do they trust that you're really using it and you're not just kind of like faking the demo with your vaporware? No. Instead, the judge gets to actually put it on their phone and run it. So someone here is a past judge of mine in a hackathon, although she's distracted by a production website being down. And for the hackathon, did we get bonus points for that? You actually getting to pull it up on your phone? Give back hack?
I reveal nothing from the judging room.
Okay. I think it did. And she can't deny it. So if you want to scan it, I put a dumb app here on the right. Nobody's taking out their phone because nobody cares. But that's okay. And then on the left, I just put up a GitHub. Oh, they did? Oh, nice. And on the left, I just put up a GitHub repo that has a couple basic CI/CD pipelines and some really solid bicep code. In fact, I was debating, I might just open the bicep code to show how pretty it is, because bicep's great.
Holy
Just y'all.
Holy glaze, as my son would say.
See? Very clear. Not JSON at all.
Not Jason.
Look at that. It's just Terraform with the
Looks a lot like Terraform.
Microsoft is really good at figuring out what works and doing it better. I'm getting us in trouble. I won't. You will. Yeah. So web apps. But then what if you want more users? What if you actually want it scalable? Because 60 minutes per day is not a lot, even CPU minutes. And also there are specific limitations on the free tier where there is no SLA. And let's see, where is it? Use of free and shared plans for production workload is not supported. You are not actually supposed to use this for an application that is making you money. It is supposed to be for just, hey, trying it out, learning stuff. So if you want more users, then you go to something like Azure Container Apps or Static Blob Storage. So Azure Container Apps is containers as a service where you just upload them and they run, but these have a lot in the free tier. And this is also a pay-as-you-go option. So essentially it's free up to this amount and then paid afterwards, but it is 180,000 CPU seconds and 2 million requests per month. That serves a lot of front-end code, especially if it's not that complicated of an app. It's a little more complicated because you have to understand how to set up a container, but it's not that hard. Once you've learned how to do it, you can use it over and over again. I'm not good at containers, which is why I don't use it. And then there
I was
is,
going to say, see, even Drank could do it. So.
no, I use containers that people make for me. It's on my to-do list, but it's never gotten around to it. It's never been a priority. Then there's blob storage. So blob storage, it's really useful because essentially if you have a static website, it is just a static file. It's not running anything. So you can just have a public endpoint for a storage account where people can access the file, and that's a site. That works perfectly fine. That is free, but only in your first 12 months because Azure has a thing where you get an extra free tier when you first sign up for 12 months. But long term, it does cost something. It is very low. I think it's pennies or like nickels a month, not like even dollars. How much is it?
I used to host my personal website, marktintervolt.com, on Azure Storage, and it was like, I don't know, a penny.
Yeah, it costs essentially nothing, but it is technically not free, which is why it was not my first recommendation. Sorry. It cost a penny.
It's virtually free.
Yeah. But so this is an option that works very well, especially for things like portfolio sites, things like that. You might also set up DNS to reroute to it because the URL it gives you by default is not very human readable, but it is a great option for that.
But that's not static websites. There's another thing called static web. I know it's very confusing.
I don't think I've actually used the static website one.
So
There's so many
I
options, I lost track of them. Fair
I just
warning.
migrated my blog from blob storage static websites to static websites static websites. I know it's very confusing, but yeah, it's a separate thing. It might have a free tier.
I have the list later of all the free tiers. Well, here's the other thing: so I have the list of like the free tier services in here, and there's like 75 services that are always free in Azure, but that doesn't cover all the services that you can run for like pennies because they're not technically free, but they are literally pennies.
Yeah.
So this is not a comprehensive presentation. There's a lot of free stuff on Azure. Okay, what if I want a well-made app? What if I actually okay, that's fine. I put a publicly available endpoint. Isn't that kind of insecure? What if I want to do things properly? So a bunch of other things, parts of good applications are free. So if you want to practice CI/CD, this is not like technically Azure, but GitHub and Azure DevOps both have a free CI/CD options that integrate with Azure for you to send things up there. They have up to, I think, 1,500 or so minutes of execution time for the agents free per month. You should never hit that. I've only hit that when I spent a month doing personal projects learning how to do infrastructure, and I had to rebuild my infrastructure like 3 times an hour for 10 minutes per shot. And turns out that'll burn all your free minutes.
Update on the static websites. They are free. You have up to 100 gigabytes of bandwidth per subscription.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Okay. Security.
Customized domains too.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
the big feature.
That's a big feature.
TLS, whatever.
Yeah.
So like you can set up a CNAME pointing to the Azure static website, free SSL cert.
Okay.
Yeah. It's using a Microsoft signed SSL cert, but like you don't have to pay for it. Yeah. And you don't have to rotate that thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All good.
It's a great service.
That does sound like good service. I need to make well, I haven't made a portfolio site. It's something on the to-do list. I want to make a book recommendation site, a portfolio site.
There's a Terraform module that can do that for you.
I don't believe in Terraform. It's just a layer on ARM. Okay, moving on. So resource-based access control, so that is making it so everybody is not owner and admin, but actually saying, hey, this site has access to this person has access to this. That is free, very easy to set up, very worth setting up. Key Vault is free for the first 12 months. It is not free forever, but it is pennies. It's worth the money. Or you can just upload the secrets through pipelines, through other options. There are many options of how to do secure secrets in Azure, and many of them are free.
One suggestion, great talk, by the way, you're doing wonderful. But I would say, add this thing, because some of these services are free unless there's traffic. Key Vault is one of those services.
Oh yeah, there's a point of traffic where you could.
It's one of those things where like I'll provision it. I don't really care about deleting it because unless I know something's going to be hitting it a lot, it doesn't cost you money. Right? So I don't know what we call that, but
Well, the other thing with Key Vault is it depends on actually how you're integrating your Key Vault. Because
if you're using HSM or something, yeah.
well, it's not even that, but it's like if you set up the Key Vault, there's ways that you can set up an application so it gets the secrets every time it runs, or there's ways you can set it up so it gets secret every time it deploys. If it's every time it deploys, there's no way you can cause any amount of traffic to Key Vault. If it's every time it runs something that's running 5 times a second, sure, but it is free. Like that's saying it is near free for individual applications that are not very big, with asterisks about, yes, it could get expensive depending on how you do things. Okay, monitoring. Cost monitoring is free, so setting up all those alerts, all of those things. That chart I sent you earlier, which is very pretty and very important. I love Azure Cost Monitor. You should, if you're part of a company and you have access to the Azure subscription, you should poke around in there just to see how things work and break stuff down. It is really worth doing, especially because people don't always do it all the time, and you can accidentally leave up things that used to make sense and no longer do and have not really been questioned in a while. It's just a neat thing to go into. So that cost management is all free, but the actual app insights, some of those other monitoring things generally are not. Sometimes they're covered in the original free tier, sometimes they're not. It's a little complicated. Monitoring is one of the most complicated pieces of billing to understand in Azure as far as the services that I've worked with.
So is this like the log analytics workspace?
Yeah. The billing's weird.
You got to go watch out for that because like if you log too much, this can actually get expensive.
Yes.
He's like, oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
We pay thousands a month for.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's one of those like sneaky little demons, you know.
Well, and it's hard because you don't want to log less.
Is
Or sometimes you do. Okay.
Is the cost because of how much you're storing, how many logs you're storing? So it's the data storage, or is it the processing?
There's multiple costs. So one level of cost is how much data you're storing. One level is how long you're storing it. One level is the queries. So if you're doing like, I don't know, I want to have every query for the last 3 months broken down by name of the call, summarized, and then with average duration, like a moderately complex query for a long period of time, you can actually be spending real money every time you hit the just run query button. So that's a thing, but then a lot of it is just the raw quantity of logs you're pushing, especially if you integrate with kind of a .NET application, the default app telemetry stuff. It's really solid because it is, every time you call an external service, like a database, it is logging that. On the other hand, let's say you wrote your code, so instead of Identity Framework doing a batch update, it's looping through 1,000 records. Every single one of those is a trace log, and you have a sync job running every 5 minutes, calling 10,000 records. You're now outputting minimum like 50,000 logs every 5 minutes. That's a lot. That adds up. I'm not going to say I've seen that happen and that I've rewritten things that cause that, but
It's not just the application logs too. Like almost every Azure service can hook up to this.
Yes.
And usually Azure policy does a deploy if not exists on a diagnostic setting that will pipe logs. And so like that's where you have to be a little bit more selective about like, well, do I need this table? You know, so like if you're using, you know, some of these tables may not populate, but like, for example, if you're provisioning Cosmos and you're not using the Mongo API, like you should not be logging the Mongo API. Right? I would hope that wouldn't log anyway, but it's like just be selective about what you log.
Okay, I'll ask a silly question because there's current development structure is not my jam. I mean, like I do not, as much as I can say, I know cloud and databases, I understand that, I don't know how all of that works together.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm trying to start figuring out how that works together and I'm taking advantage of these Azure free or low cost services.
yes.
How do I monitor and prepare for all of those things without having complete awareness of all of those things before I'm getting into it?
I will show you 2 tools later that explain the cost stuff and how you can prepare for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, those are in here. The next one, AI. Everybody, AI. all over the place. However, most of that is like I'm interacting through a web portal with ChatGPT. You're not really doing AI. You are consuming AI. If you want to do AI, if you want to be involved, do more lower level things, Azure has things where you can actually set up your own chatbot, where you can do speech to text. I know Matt Eland, part of the presentation, he has a thing where he took a bunch of photos of his hand, rock, paper, scissors, and taught a computer how to beat him at rock, paper, scissors. And that kind of stuff.
Just to plug Matt Eland, he also developed a data analytics
The book.
engine
Or the
to
engine.
determine if Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Matt Eland, guys, he's a great guy. He's freaking creative.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. But that is under the free tier of Azure Vision. You can, for free, make a rock, paper, scissors app. Because here's the thing. I think he did 100 total photos. If you're doing a production application that's documenting bird types, you might need 1,000,000 photos. Personal stuff, 100's fine. So there's a bunch of things where you can do really cool things with AI and actually things that are more complex than the just, I'm asking ChatGPT for recipes, which is really important. But if you want to take it to the next level is you actually training and interacting with things more, and Azure has a bunch of that stuff available for free.
One more thing. I want to plug my talk for next month at the Azure CBus meetup, where I'm talking about the JFK files, where I stand up a Microsoft OpenAI RAG. That's what does RAG stand for?
Retrieval augmented generation.
Thank you. I knew you'd know that. And I load 2,000 some JFK files from the U.S. government's website into OpenAI. It took like 3 days. It's not uploading. I got a 5 gigabyte, data.
They're trying to stop him.
At my house. It's the AI service had to split up all those files and then do processing on them before it put them into the vector database. $700 later. Okay, it cost me $700 to do this. It was for like a 60-minute YouTube video. Okay, you can go watch it. But like, I'm gonna be talking about that at the next meetup. So make sure to come to the meetup.
Sorry, my talk's always a little hectic, and he's not helping. So next thing, Cooper did not like the images. He was like, remove the text, and I was like, no, the text makes it funnier.
This is nightmare fuel, man. Like, what is going on here?
I asked for like random images.
Like, what is that a metaphor for?
So I asked him to make a serverless app shredding money like a wood chipper. A server app shredding money like a wood chipper. A serverless app not.
Before the ChatGPT talk.
Oh yeah, and I specifically said to make it uncanny.
Wow.
I have fun. So let's say you're using SQL. If you're provisioning the lowest tier of SQL, I think that the database still costs like $5 a month, and up to I think like the next lowest tier might be like 50. It's a chunk. If you provision it as a serverless thing, which means you only pay for what you use, asterisk, 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 and you're doing a pretty low use thing, you can have access to things that are more complicated for very low cost. So like when I did a personal project, made like a silent auction site, and I wanted to use a SQL database because I wanted to practice relationships. I wanted SQL. I did not want to pay for a constant deployed SQL instance, set up a serverless one. It takes 30 seconds to warm up each time I have it hit it because I'm paying for the cheapest serverless SQL database, but it's a personal project. It was perfect. I don't think I ever paid more than 20 cents a month for it. And that kind of thing is available for a bunch of different things. Cosmos has a serverless option. I would recommend actually the throughput free tier option whenever you can, but the serverless one is really powerful, especially if you have something that's hit very infrequently. And a bunch of other things they have that are available as serverless options to make them very low cost for very low traffic applications, which is all you need for a POC, a personal project, a learning project. Next thing, Dr. Keith, Azure pricing calculator. You put anything you want in here and you can actually see, hey, for this service, it costs this much per month. It costs this much to run in these different ways, this amount of data in this different region. And you can actually build up like 20 different things and build an overall pricing estimate for something. It is not.
I wonder if this is obsolete now. Like, Couldn't you go into ChatGPT and just be like, this is what I want to go do. Tell me how much this costs. We should try that.
No,
We should try that.
the thing is
That's a good talk.
no,
But
might be. But this is more up to date and accurate.
ChatGPT to be up to date on the current information. So if the pricing changes since the last time we got its data.
Case in point,
So that
I planned this weekend trip to go to 2 baseball games. It used the current schedules for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cleveland Guardians. So you're right. You got to trust but verify. But like,
well, but that's the thing is when ChatGPT is calling it, it's calling it from a Google search.
Yeah.
It's not calling it from Azure. It's calling it from an article about Azure that's out of date.
maybe.
Or it's also, sometimes it will call Azure, sometimes it won't. You can't totally trust it. And also the thing that you'll see with this is you will see all of the options. ChatGPT does sometimes only show you the more popular options, and especially an issue you run into with AI decently often is it is very good at things that are done in public. So let's take a T-SQL. If you have really complex 3,000 line T-SQL queries, those are usually only inside of enterprise coding bases. There's not a lot of that just out on the internet, well optimized for very large queries. So AIs are pretty bad at that. On the other hand, like JavaScript apps, everybody and their dog has some JavaScript app somewhere on GitHub. So AI is great at JavaScript, or something like Python, where things that are actually inside of enterprises might not be as good at. So like, it's probably really good at a bunch of basic pricing in Azure, but if you have a very specific question or unusual things, it may be off. And I would like, no, the other thing is I would say maybe start with ChatGPT because that's way faster than clicking all your options in Azure. So ChatGPT at first, find some options, and then pull this up to verify it and mess around and see, hey, if I decrease this by 50%, what does it do exact math kind of thing? I would use the pricing calculator. It also does save your stuff and it's pretty nice.
It sounds like we need an MCP server.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd say about this is you can export or share
Mm.
links. So
Yeah.
if you are passing it up to management, it's nice for that.
No, this would be really nice in MCP server.
You can export it to
Drake.
Excel, which every good.
Weekend
No.
assignment, go write an MCP server for Azure pricing.
I can
It'll make you internet famous, man.
I need a platform to share it if I want to be famous. I'm not sure I want to be famous. If I am, it'll be for the wrong thing. Always.
MCP Azure pricing, come on, man.
And also, like, my to-do list is pretty long. Like, I can slot it in as item 41.
What about 42?
Eh. Okay. Next thing, slight warning when you're playing with the free tier. If you are on the free tier for the $200 first year or the $50 month one, it will cut you off when you run out of credits. It will not charge you. It will just stop your account. Will be, you're done. And that is great. See, let's click it up. Spending protection. Credit card will not be charged. With an asterisk. And then let's say that you happen to be building an infrastructure POC project and you left a couple of resources running overnight and you burnt all your free credits and you're out of it. So you're like, my manager said he'd be really happy if I got this project done and I want to work on it. So I'm just going to put my credit card in a little and nothing will go wrong. Then you leave up a Bastion instance and you lose yourself $60 over the weekend. Don't do that. I can't say that's from experience. I can't say it's not from experience. Does that sound like a real thing that happened to me? Definitely not. But yeah, if you break the free tier and put your credit card in, you don't get another, there's not another stop. There's not another break. The free tier is the stop. You can put in warnings, you can configure alerts, but you have to go and do that yourself. You do not get them by default. Capiche? That one's important.
Bastions are absurdly expensive.
So expensive.
It's absurd.
And the other thing with Bastion is if you're just going to access a VM, there's a button that's like access it with Bastion. And if you hit that, it just makes a Bastion instance, which is very useful.
Doesn't.
It does. It's very useful if you want that.
ClickOps drift.
I literally found one in a company.
There's so much ClickOps drift sprinkled across the Azure portal. You gotta watch that.
And that one, like, I found one that had been up for months. Nobody was using. Cost $150 a month. They've just been sitting there, just bastioning away. I don't think the V. I don't think that. I don't think the VM that it was provisioned to go into even was still up. Unimportant. Also, that is why when you're doing POCs, you make a resource group and then you nuke the whole resource group. It is way better than deleting things individually. Resource groups are great because you can delete them and it deletes everything, guaranteed, never fails.
No piglins were harmed in this talk.
No what?
It's
Opinions?
Minecraft humans.
Oh,
Piglins, they operate the bastions
I believe
in
you.
the nether.
You got this. I believe you. You can do
Am I
it.
the only person that has children that play Minecraft? What the heck, guys?
I don't know anything about culture. I only know about code. I'm a developer. I got to go back to my mom's basement after this. Okay. So next free resource that I recommend using is actually just the portal itself. So not to deploy things, but to mess around and look and search things. There is a lot in Azure Portal where you can actually just go and see all the services. They have guides, they have walkthroughs, or you can just open up a service and see all the provisioning options. And then based off what it says in the portal with all the ClickUps, you then stop at the last page and go write it in Bicep.
Or you can
Or-
export it to Terraform.
Okay, fine.
Option to
Well-
export the script for.
Yeah,
They
to
had
Terraform
did they add that?
and Bicep.
Okay.
Good. It's
Fine.
public preview now.
Now we're gonna write it in Pulumi. I don't know. Actually, I really want to try Pulumi. Another thing is they actually have a Copilot built into the Azure portal that you can say, hey, are my resources secure? Explain my cost and billing. This one probably I would trust the cost numbers on the Copilot inside of Azure because they probably MCP it properly. But so if you want to know stuff, they literally have a Copilot that will tell you, how do I deploy this? How does this work? How do I delete that? Very useful, entirely free, because their hope is you'll provision more Azure resources, which you should, because Azure's great. See, that's how I took back all the other stuff. So that is it for me. Thank you all so much for coming out, making a success. This would not be possible without you all coming out. We can stick around for questions because we are at time, but I mean, we don't really, I guess they'll kick us out eventually, but not too quickly. So thank you all for coming out. We will do one again in the future. And since I promised, I will pull this up briefly. So if you go to Azure Pricing Purchase Options and then click the big See All Free Services button, there are this many free services on Azure. This does not include all of the almost free
Is
services.
Synapse on there?
I don't know.
Definitely not.
It is not. But everything on here is free, either for the 12-month initial period or forever free. So lots of stuff on there. And that is it. You guys have any questions?
I have a question. Anybody want to do the cheesy social media shot?
Sure?
Sure. Well,
Oh,
So
yeah.
you seem like I'm important on social media.
yeah, we can do that. Before you all go, I was going to give away a free copy of my book called Mastering Terraform.
It's a good book. I've started it.
If anybody's interested, so raise your hands if anybody is anybody interested in a copy of my book?
There you go.
One guy. There you go.
He's
You
gonna
can have it. There you go. Okay. I was gonna do a random, but like, yeah, there you go.
I am the only person at my office that has a stack of books on their desk, I think. I'm probably the weirdo.
You have a stack of my book.
I have a stack of your book and other books.
Oh man, I was about to.
Yours is on top right now.
Huh?
Yours is on top of the stack.
Oh. And- Yeah, absolutely.
No. If I could squeeze you guys in just wherever you are, quick and easy, painless.
Or we should probably do it in front of the big improving logo. That's what we make them.
Oh yeah.